evening. Welcome to the Glencoe Public Library's program, Sharing Stories. We've got a fun, collaborative, and very Glencoe evening ahead of us. It will begin with Steve Pfeiffer, the co-editor of the newly published book, Storied Stuff, Show and Tell for Grown-Ups. Steve
Props.
Steve will describe the Storied Stuff project that forms the basis of the book. He'll then introduce the people here and here who will read their Storied Stuff essays and show you the keepsakes that inspired them. And now a little bit about Steve Pfeiffer. He is a New York Times best-selling author who's written over 20 nonfiction books on everything from baseball to social justice, his own memoir, and collaborations with civil rights icon C.T. Vivian and former Secretary of State James Baker. Originally a Glencoe resident, he now lives in Evanston with his wife Sharon, who's also part of the program tonight. Steve and the other readers will be happy to answer your questions after the presentation. Thank you so much for suggesting this event, Steve, and I will let you take it from here.
Thank you, Grace. I'm told that this is the largest gathering in Glencoe since the opening of Mench's Deli. But seriously, folks, we're delighted to be here at the library, sharing with myself and all the readers, and to see so many of our friends out here tonight. The library is a special place to me. I still remember Miss Jacobs as the children's librarian back in the 50s and 60s, and I'm from some of you nodding. I see that you do too. And then it was a very important place to my mom, who lived in Glencoe for over 50 years. This was really the hub of her social activity in town. She'd come here to, get photocopies. She had eye problems, and they would read things to her. They'd help her fill out forms. She developed loads of friendships here. And now, paying it forward, my brother Jim is on the library board, and it's just heartwarming to be here tonight and see such a great turnout. I am going to tell you just a little about our origin story. I've got a lot of friends here tonight who I grew up with and went to elementary school or middle school with. There's Bill Solomon, there's Howard Rossman, there's Larry Britnews on the table. I don't think, is Pinky here, Jay? Okay. Pinky Rose and Lisa Miller-Sablasky are also part of that group. And we were, when COVID started, our 6 couples would meet weekly to, after hand washing, just to hand wring and kind of just, on Zoom, thank you, yeah, and kind of commiserate about our isolation. And to be honest, it got a little tiring just talking about all the stuff that was bad about isolation, and there was plenty of that, and we were all very fortunate. None of us were sick or anything like that. So I just suggested one time, look, next week, instead of, not having a kind of program, why doesn't everybody just bring a cherished keepsake from childhood and tell the story behind it? And everybody did, and it was incredibly eye-opening. Bill, who's in the front row here, I consider my closest friend, since kindergarten. He brings a line of train that engine that we had played with in the basement. That story, I knew I remembered the object, but I didn't know how important it was to him because of his connection to his grandfather. And there are other stories like that. And we just thought, well, during this period of COVID, why don't we create a website where we can kind of create a community where people can share stories about cherished keepsakes? And we thought, maybe we'll do it for 6 months or a year. We put out the word to friends and fellow writers, and responses just poured in, and we started putting out a couple a week. And now here we are 5 years later with over 500 stories published and over 200 individual contributors. So we decided to celebrate the 5th anniversary that we would publish story stuff. And because we have over 200 contributors, we thought we would do it in 2 volumes. We divided them alphabetically, so volume 1 came out this spring, and volume 2 will be coming out in the fall, and there will be some copies over there to get. And we've been asked, why do you think it's resonated so much? And we are both strong believers in the power of storytelling, and Sharon has spoken and taught for many years about the power of objects as a kind of a gateway into telling stories. And I'll just give another example, which I'll try and get through. If you just ask someone to write a story about their father or their mother, and that's just the overall general assignment, you're not sure that they're going to be able to kind of focus. But if you ask them to pick an object and tell the story, look around your house, find an object that's meaningful to you, and tell the story behind that, then it can resonate. And Marnie Solomon, Bill's wife, she wrote a piece for us about an S&H green stamp book. Remember those? S&H green stamp book that she had kept all these years. And why she kept that S&H green stamp book? It's because her father was a traveling salesman. He was only home on the weekend, and at the special time for them was going to the grocery store and collecting S&H green stamps and posting in them. And why has she kept it? Because she's really hoping for that blender. But seriously, I don't know if any of the people who've written kind of such personal stories about loved ones or events would just generally write that story if they didn't have an object to focus on. And I think you'll understand that more clearly when you hear from our readers. So we'll get to them. Our first reader is going to be Keith Kretschmer, South School, Central School, class of 1965, Brookside Lane, a man of many interests, businessman, a writer of elegant haikus, and I think you'll see after he reads this piece that he has his hands in a lot of different things. Keith? Want to hold your object up? Do you have?
Okay.
You want me to? I'll hold the one.
All right, fine.
Some of you may recognize these from childhood.
So, 5 years old. I'd been to preschool, but going to South School for kindergarten was the big time. There were all kinds of fun things to play with, including a box with a giant steering wheel like a bus has that captured my attention. I may have been a little clingy when my mom dropped me off, but Miss Steinke was warm and welcoming. I don't remember much about daily activities then, finger painting and other painting on easels for sure. We had to bring one of our dad's old shirts to use as a smock. There was recess, of course. We had rest period each day on the rug. We also had a snack, which often was Salerno butter cookies. We used to put them on our fingers and eat the bumps off before we ate the rest of the cookie. One day, we had a project with clay. Each of us had a knob of clay, which we flattened to about a ½ inch thick. Then each of us stood up and made a handprint in the wet clay. Our teacher used the stylus to write my name on the underside of the piece, along with the month and year. Mine says Keith, November 1956. It's an impression of my right hand. Once it dried or was fired, I don't remember which, each of us painted our piece. Mine is yellow, and this memento still sits on my bookshelf to this day. Do any of you have yours from kindergarten?
Please show of hands. I think one of the reasons some of these pieces are powerful or connect to people is because of the specificity in the description. So when you hear about Salerno cookies and so forth, that just really creates a connection between the reader and the author. Our second reader tonight is someone who's familiar probably to a lot of you from Glencoe, Adrian Gallagher, who's headed the caucus here as an interior design business. And Adrian's lived all over the U.S. and the world, but has settled in Glencoe and has lived here for several decades. The piece she's going to read tonight is actually the most popular piece that ever has been on Storied Stuff over our 5 years. And I'm not putting any pressure on her. Yeah. So, Adrian.
This is the author. So, when I was 7, my family started having family meetings. We took turns running the meetings and being the secretary, following Robert's Rule of Order, a book my parents thought was vital to our success in life. Here's an excerpt from a meeting of the ALISA Club, our initials, on July 10th, 1958. My older sister was the secretary. Old business. Steve said he should have a raise. We discussed. Mommy made the motion and Stephen didn't get a raise. Les said the same thing. We discussed. Daddy made a motion. It was defeated. Aide, that's me, said she wanted to go to bed later to catch lightning bugs. No. New business. I said I wanted to wear lipstick every day in the summer. No, of course not. Mommy made the motion. It was tied. Will be carried until the next meeting. The meetings continued. Can I quit piano? Can we go to bed later? Where should we go on vacation? Can we go to the circus? Can the person who knocks on the bathroom door wait before entering? The last one, request, actually got some traction. And also, we did agree to go to the circus. But generally, according to the meeting notes, there could be discussion, but no arguments will be tolerated. On February 9th, 1960, my brother made a motion to stop having meetings. Motion defeated.
Our next reader is Pam Britton Gassell, part of the brother-sister tag team we have up here tonight. And Pam is Central School, class of 67, and may hold the record up here as longest longevity at one particular job. She was at the Tribune for 43 years until retiring a few years ago. She wrote a lovely piece for us about the relationship between her mother and her mother's 3 sisters. But tonight she's going to read something that I think any of you who went to elementary school, which I'm assuming is most of you, will really relate to. Pam?
Okay, sorry, get ready here. So in the 60s, it was common for people to have pen pals. I was no exception. My favorite was Maureen from New Zealand. We wrote letters for about 2 years, from maybe 10 to 12. We stopped writing for some reason, and I stashed her letters in a scrapbook. Fast forward to the pandemic. One of my projects was rummaging through all I had saved and figuring what to do with everything. Lo and behold, I found the letters and started reading them to my family. The next thing I knew, one of my daughters, Sammy, who's sitting right here, was searching for Maureen on Facebook and found what looked like a match. She contacted her through Messenger, asking if she had a pen pal from Illinois with my name. Within an hour, Maureen messaged her back and confirmed it. She said, I recently was thinking of your mum, is what she called her, and would love to hear from her. So just like that, we became Facebook friends, catching up on our lives and having our first phone conversation, which I was still taken back by your accent, because I forgot about the English accents. I can't believe how fast this happened. It's wild. It used to take at least 2 weeks to receive a letter via airmail, and that was our only form of communication. Now, 56 years later, I saw how the power of instant technology changed the concept of pen pals, as it only took about a minute to find someone halfway around the world. It's definitely been cool to experience a renewing of friendship with someone I was so close to but never met. And I have an adjunct to that, which I don't even think I told you about, but there's more. So in September of 23, Maureen was visiting family in the US for the first time in California, New York, and Missouri, and she had never been on a plane before also. She told me in her letter her dream was to visit America, so it took till 2023 to fulfill this dream. She asked if she could also make a quick detour to stop in Chicago to see me. Of course, I was thrilled. And as I waited outside O'Hare to greet her, I was thinking how surreal it was that I was waiting to meet someone I had started communicating with almost 60 years now ago, but had never met. And she never sent me a current photo of her, so I was really hoping I could find her. I was pretty nervous, as was my family, who thought maybe I was ghosted. But when we saw each other, I recognized her immediately, and it felt very natural and was truly a huggable moment for both of us to always remember. She was here little less than 24 hours, but what a magical 24 hours. We managed to pack in a quick tour of Chicago and the burbs, dinner at Carson's, and a family brunch so she could meet my girls and my grandson. Unfortunately, my son-in-law couldn't come. She stayed at our place for the night, and we giggled so hard reading all the letters and just got to know each other as adults. What was most amazing is that we still have the same values and beliefs on everything, and we continue to communicate today via Facebook posts and Messenger. Lastly, I have to give a special shout out to Sammy for believing in the power of social media. I am so grateful for her, as I would not be standing up here telling this story if it wasn't without her encouragement. So, but if anyone wants to see these later, I have a bunch of her letters and the airmail envelopes. And then I also have some pictures to prove that we did actually meet with her and had brunch with her. And I don't have any from when she was a kid, but anyway, it was a really great experience. Does anybody else have pen pals around? Yeah. Good. Thanks.
Thanks, Cam. Our next reader is the only ringer on the panel tonight. She doesn't have an exact Glencoe connection except for being friends with all of us. Francie Aronson Dickman agreed to fill in when one of the other writers from Glencoe said that he couldn't make it, and we were delighted. Francie is a published novelist. Her book Chuckerman Makes a Movie is a riot. It's great summer reading. I commend it to all of you. And she's been in the workshop that Sharon and I have been conducting for the last 15 years, which actually grew out of doing a memoir workshop here at the Glencoe Library. And we're eagerly anticipating her next novel, which is called Fish Out of Water, not to put any pressure on. Then it's like third revision, and it's great, and we're looking forward to that. So, Francie?
I came all the way from Highland Park to fill in Glencoe. And here's my object, my Snoopy. I loved and will always love Snoopy. My Snoopy, stuffed though he was, had a wardrobe. A bathing suit in case he felt like a swim, overalls for casual, tennis togs with a visor so the sun didn't interfere with his overhead, an umbrella in case it rained. He also had a tuxedo, which he wore on Saturdays to host the Snoopy Talk Show, an unscripted affair during which Snoopy chatted with Woodstock and other A and B list stuffed animals. I was the showrunner, getting animals from the green room, pressing play on the cassette recorder, editing afterwards, and forcing my brother to listen. As beloved as Snoopy himself was his stuff. The miniature Peanuts notebooks, pencil sets, and memo pads, which were sold uptown Highland Park at Chestnut Court, and which I collected and coveted, but never used. They were precious. They were possibility. That it all, the obsession with a dog who, in comic strip or imagination, personified and embodied every kind of character, including author, and that he had his own line of notebooks and pens, the stuff of writers, was an indication of who I was and what I liked to do, never crossed my mind. Until the other day, when I was driving along, listening to Ann Patchett read her essay, Snoopy taught me how to be a writer. Me too, I wanted to scream. Thank you, I wanted to say, for the insight. All these years, I assumed my infatuation with Snoopy stemmed from wanting to have a dog. Maybe, too, it stemmed from wanting to be a writer. And, as a real quick shout out, the woman who bought me all of the Snoopy stuff is still here with us today. A special shout out. This is yours.
Next reader, one of my dearest friends, Larry Gritton, his real name is Larry Gritton, proud member of Central School class of 1964. That's how he signs his checks and everything else. He's one of the more prolific contributors to storied stuff, and the piece he has in the book is about a Picasso plate that he got for a wedding gift that Bill and I and a couple of our other friends each chipped in $25 for, and it's now his annuity. But I asked him if he would read a different piece that he wrote, and he agreed, and I'm very grateful for him having agreed to do that. So come on up, Larry.
We got to ratchet down the humor on this one. I'll show this later when it becomes apparent what it is. I just want to say, first of all, that we knew Sharon before Steve did. Her husband and my late wife Jennifer were part of the same design partnership. So there you go, Steve. Okay.
Always trying to update me. Yeah, he just pointed out her late husband. So.
Okay. My late wife Jennifer's three most admired men were Abraham Joshua Heschel, Rabbi Samuel Dresner, and Elie Wiesel. Of course, she never knew Heschel, but she quoted him often and read most everything he wrote or commented on. There's a quote of his on her gravestone: "Build your life as if it were a work of art." If you knew Jennifer, you would know how apropos that quote is. She was an artist, graphic designer, songwriter for toasts, Shakespeare savant, Haftarah chanter, and poetry lover. She could recite Jabberwocky from memory, and even when she was very sick, she remembered word for word poems that the children wrote in books she read to them. Rabbi Samuel Dresner was a disciple of Heschel. He was the first rabbi at Moriah congregation in Deerfield in the late 70s. Jennifer's mother, Millie Levy, and her husband, Frank, were founding members of Moriah and were very close to the Dresners, and so was Jennifer. Rabbi Dresner put a group of couples together who remain close friends today. Jennifer delivered a eulogy at his memorial service. And now to the point of the story. Elie Wiesel. We first met Elie Wiesel at an Elie Wiesel weekend hosted by Mariah when Dresner was the rabbi. They were also very close and disciples of Heschel. Elie would give a lecture on a Shabbat dinner on Friday night and then would read the Haftorah the next day on Shabbat service, chanting a unique melody in his accented quiet voice that fully resonated with the congregation, who listened in complete silence. During one such weekend, Rabbi Dresner asked if we would do him a favor and drive Elie to his hotel in Glenview after the Kiddush lunch. Of course, we readily agreed. Jennifer sat in the back seat with Elliot for a 15-minute drive there to the hotel. There wasn't a moment of silence as the two of them chatted away. When Jennifer contracted her illness years later, Rabbi Sam Frank, who replaced Rabbi Dresner at Mariah, brought Elie at his request to our house to visit with Jennifer. And again, the two of them dominated the discussion. A few days later, Jennifer received the personal note from Elie pictured above, which meant so much to all of us. The note, it says, "Dear Jennifer, the most important thing is be strong. You are in my thoughts and my prayers, Elie." Fast forward to the Shiva at our house in Highland Park on May 9, 2001, after Jen finally succumbed to her disease. When I answered the phone in the afternoon, "Letty, it's Elie," he said. That's how he pronounced my name, in his heavily accented Israeli voice. He then apologized for not being able to attend the funeral or Shiva in person, as he was in New York on business, including, I believe, an appearance on The Tonight Show. Imagine receiving a phone call from a Nobel Peace Prize winner, a Holocaust survivor, prolific author, and strong advocate for human rights and peace, admired by all. What a thrill, certainly a phone call I will never forget. His note is framed in my bedroom and another reminder to wonderful and difficult times.
Our next reader's familiar to me, I'm her second husband. Sharon is co-founder, co-creator of Storage Stuff, co-editor of Storage Stuff, and the author of the wonderful introduction to Storage Stuff Volume 1. She, as I mentioned before, has long thought stuff is the way of telling stories, and it's also in the title of all 8 of the wonderful Jamie mysteries that she wrote as a series for St. Martin's. And this is what she's going to read is a little about her origin story, and connects very well to why we're here tonight.
This is my object. And it's not, and if you have volume 1 of Storied Stuff, this is not, I do have a piece in there, but it's not that piece. So this is a bonus piece. When I turned 7, my dad took me to the Kankakee bookstore and told me to pick out any book that I wanted for my birthday present. We didn't have a lot of books in our house, but my dad revered education, his own cut short by the Depression. Dad was so proud that I was such an advanced reader. I picked out the fattest book I could find. More pages meant more stories. Good Housekeeping's best book of bedtime stories. My dad handed it to the woman behind the cash register, who adjusted her glasses and said, "Will you be reading this to her?" My dad told her it was a book for me to read to myself. "This is too difficult for her." It's important to know that my dad and mom owned a tavern, the Easy Way Inn. My mom was there, tending bar, while my dad had slipped away with me to buy me my present. I could tell my dad was annoyed with this woman who was now delaying us. "Sharon, can you read this book?" Well, I looked up at my dad and nodded. The woman shook her head. "She says she can, but it's too difficult for her." My dad took the book from the woman, opened it, and handed it to me. "Read it for her, Sharon." I read the page aloud, no mistakes, and with expression. The woman blushed and apologized and rang up the sale. Back at the Easy Way Inn, Dad bragged to my mother and all the regulars at the bar about how I'd read for the saleswoman. He chuckled over this story for years, and I treasure the book to this day.
Our next reader, Pat Hitchens, longtime Glencoe resident who recently moved to Evanston. She's been a professional writer for a long time and in many different fields, television, health, and also volunteer extraordinaire. Taught writing at the Salvation Army to recovering alcoholics and others. And she's just about finished with her own memoir, which we're looking forward to. And she's going to read a piece that, again, a lot of people who have contributed to storage stuff seem to have written about recipes, family recipes. I'm guessing that a lot of you still have the recipes that your parents or grandparents passed on to you, not just but probably in their own handwriting or in some kind of a, file box or something else. And that's why this one really hit home with us. Pat?
Well, here's the aforementioned file box. Everybody, I think, can probably recognize what this is. Crepes Robert. Robert Hitchens' earliest meals came from his mother's pinch depression-era larder in New Jersey. Later, as a teenager, he shared more calorie-dense platters with farmhands at his aunt's farm in Emporia, Kansas. It was really not until the 1950s that he learned to eat, while selling advertising for NBC Radio. Deals were sealed with the help of 2-hour business lunches along the bistro-laden walks of New York's Manhattan Island. An international smorgasbord of planned entertainment and the awakening of my father's palate. I try to picture the first time Daddy furrowed his bushy eyebrows and looked at a lunchtime chef in the eye. What would a midday cook summoned to the dining room by a lunchtime customer have expected? Yeah. I picture my father booming, his finger pointing at the remains of bourgeois something and inserting a theatrical pause. Was superb. Superb. What my father's client might have thought, I have no idea. I can imagine Daddy building on his restaurant encounters. He hadn't gone to journalism school for nothing. And having learned to eat, he was now itching. If this browned under gas, he might have peppered the chef, whether or not he quite understood what he was asking. Then would come the request for pay dirt, a probe for the secrets of the trade. By the way, just where do you pros buy cookware? Commercial-grade sauté pans began appearing at home, also carbon steel knives. French whisks replaced mother's egg beaters, and the joy of cooking acquired a host of new spatters. Mother didn't really mind. She found cooking boring. And my father turned out to have a gift. Our tiny tract house kitchen became the boyhood chemistry set he never had. An entertainment to rival the Ed Sullivan Show or Jackie Gleason. I remember Daddy peering down at the stovetop, snorting spices with his wide nostrils, or watching a bubbling butter and flour joust in the pan. Mother favored Baroque music in her kitchen. My father whistled when it was his turn. She had measuring spoons. He trusted the palm of his hand. As a recipe, my father's crepes Robert seems out of place in Mother's index. Adjust the facts formula. It offers no special trip. So it offers no special tips for crepe batter, let alone for thickening bechamel. And save for insisting on fresh pepper, Daddy's instructions otherwise leave cooks free to smash, slather, and smother. Also fold, add dollops, or even nestle, as they will interpret. Robert Hitchens' crepes Robert never tasted the same anyway, twice. But they were always good.
I'm up next, and this is my object. It's a 3-page letter dated April 26, 1970, Sunday evening. At age 9, in 1959, I sent my hero, the New York Yankees, Mickey Mantle, a letter inviting him to dinner. The following year, I sent a letter to another hero, John F. Kennedy, wishing him success in his race for president. Framed and under glass, their personalized autographed responses still grace my office wall. But it is another letter, this one unsolicited, that I cherish most. When I was a sophomore at Yale, in the spring of 1970, I joined the vast majority of my fellow students in a strike protesting the arrest of the Black Panther leader Bobby Seale, President Nixon's bombing of Cambodia, and the university's treatment of its blue-collar workers. The strike, which preceded May Day protests across the country, received national attention. And I received a letter from my lawyer father, a liberal Democrat, with what he termed, quote, some random thoughts, close quotes. His 10 numbered paragraphs were hardly random. Number 1 cautioned me not to, quote, confuse the process of feeling about a problem with the process of thinking about a problem, close quote. In number 4, he said he found, quote, the idea of striking against a university to whom we pay $3,000 for the trip. Yep, $3,000. Quote, slightly Orwellian. Quote, quote. He was no fan of the Panthers, but in number 6, he said that it was incumbent on society to, quote, correct the injustice done them, close quote. There are nuggets of wisdom in all 10 paragraphs, but it's in the final one that still brings a tear to my eyes. I picture him in his study, pecking away at his old typewriter, thoughtfully tempering his own philosophy with the right of his oldest son to grow up, and even make mistakes. It reads, I'm pleased with your sensitivity to injustice, unhappy that you will miss some excellent classes, envious of the exhilaration of an all-consuming cause, I've known it, slightly concerned for your physical well-being, and confident that you will survive your days on the barricade. As I survive mine. Sorry, much love, Dad. Sorry about that. Our final reader, who's going to elevate the crowd, is Peggy Wagner Kimball. Again, one of my dearest friends, dating back to the 50s. And Peggy is probably the youngest published writer among us. She had a children's book published before she was out of elementary school. And went on to writing and editing career, and then career as a ceramicist and lifelong Glencoe resident, and she's going to bring it home.
I can't believe I have to follow that. First of all, thanks to Steve and Sharon for captaining our sentimental journeys. It was a joy to revisit these moments for each of us, and a challenge to try and fit our memories into the best 250 words we could come up with. In the future, we can't let AI and ChatGPT steal the joys and challenges of the creative process.
So, here's my object. I'll put it right here. Do you know what you did every day in 1958? I do. My diary recounts the busy life of 8 and 9-year-old me. Bike riding, ice skating, snow forts, the beach, jumping rope, hula hoops, my dollhouse, school, piano lessons, dance classes, horseback riding, brownies, birthday parties, sleepovers, books, movies, day camp, and family trips. Fun with my friends, my family, my sister, my parents. Visits with grandparents, cousins, aunts, nieces. I practiced division, problems, and writing in script. I drew pictures. I wrote stories and invented goofy jokes. I noted my migraine headaches, doctor's appointments, and Iowa tests. I mentioned that stamps cost 3 cents for postcards and 4 cents for letters. Between the pages, I saved a Valentine from a boy I loved. This random year contained momentous events. My baby sister Judy had died 2 years earlier, and so I was thrilled when my brother Doug was born in April. In May, our dachshund Fritz bit a boy who had thrown stones at him. When we had to give away our beloved dog, my sister Betsy and I were so sad that we could not stop crying. And in October, I proudly wrote, I rode on a train to Chicago with no adult. Fun, elation, heartbreak, independence. My 1958 diary has them all. Of the many diaries and journals I've written, this is the only one I saved. I barely recognize her handwriting, but I know that girl. She's been here all along.
That concludes reading portion. Last time we did one of these events at the library, there were quite a few questions, and we'd be happy to entertain any questions that any of you have now about either the particulars of story stuff or just questions to any of the writers up here. Obviously, Glencoe can't keep up with Evanston.
Do you still write regularly together or share your stories together?
We've collaborated on a few projects. You want to explain what they were, and then
Well, Steve and I have co-edited 3 collections of memoirs, Home, Family, and Body, where we invited writers who we admired to write about rooms in the house, members of the family, parts of the body. And so those were 3 of the books we did. We also did...
And just point out James Smiley,
Yeah.
Alex Kotlowitz, Linda Berry,
We aimed
Edward
high and
Stanton.
got really great writers to contribute. We also wrote a book called 50 Ways to Help Your Community, a handbook for change. And we interviewed, people who've done grassroots problem solving. And mostly what we do is our collaborations are, Steve will say, we need a piece on Mother's Day. Go look at your stuff and write something. And so then I will go, I like to write on assignment, so I will write a piece. And also, I do, like Steve mentioned, I do the introductions. But Steve does all the work for story stuff. I should say that. I don't like to write emails. I don't like to make phone calls. I don't like to do any of that stuff. Steve does it all. So if any of you are contributors to storied stuff out there, and you get those emails every week, Steve is writing all of those,
That's another thing. We encourage you to submit stories to us. I hope that a lot of you have seen that, there's really power in objects, that you can find a story. If you go home tonight and look in your bedroom or your kitchen or your living room or something like that, I'm sure you'll see something and know the story behind that and send send it to us. We edit very lightly and we accept almost everything. And we'd be delighted. And it's fun to see your work being published and having friends, family, and strangers have the opportunity to read what you've written. Back to this question, because Sharon writes fiction and I write nonfiction, we don't necessarily collaborate on a particular, those books that she referenced were kind of compilations. But our collaboration really extends to, being the best editor, the first editor of what either of us is writing at the time. We don't pass anything on to our agent or publisher or others before the other of us has at least seen it and commented and made suggestions, which for better or worse can be taken. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Are you going to do any more of these when the second volume comes out?
Yeah, we're already booked in Skokie, and I haven't really been actively looking for other venues. One thing I did forget to mention at the beginning is that when we've never made a penny off of storage stuff. It's always been just a project of love and trying to create community, and likewise with Storage Stuff 1 and Storage Stuff 2, which is coming out in the fall. All proceeds beyond the actual physical cost of printing the book are going to not-for-profits, and we decided when we were putting this one together, the production schedule was that we had to have everything in by January. It was right in the middle of those wildfires that were ravaging Los Angeles. So we made the commitment to donate all those proceeds to those displaced from their own stuff in the forest fires, and we've done that. We've given over $1,000 to various organizations there, and then we've also, and this was thanks to our contributors. There's a wonderful organization in Chicago that many of you may have heard of called Open Books. It takes used books and new books and either donates. It's a literacy organization. Either donates them to families that could use books, or puts them in their bookstores that they run, Open Books, and then uses the proceeds from sales to promote literacy. And thanks to our contributors, we did a little kind of internal fundraising campaign, and we're able to donate 100 copies of Storage Stuff to Open Books, and we hope to do the same thing with Volume 2. It's just a way that writing can contribute to the community. Any other questions?
Steve, could you talk about your summer contest and what the focus of it is?
Oh, I didn't even feed you that question. Yes, thank you for asking. This is the second annual Storage Stuff Summer Writing Contest, where we encourage entries from everyone, and 500-word maximum. If you go to, by the way, to read these stories, I hope you're reading from the book, but to read these stories and many others that that aren't in this volume or are going to be in the other, just go to our website, story-stuff.com, and you can read everybody's stories. There's an index, so if you like stories from, and how could you not, like the stories from the people that are up here tonight, you can find other stories that they wrote, or if they're other people you know. And one of the great things about Storage Stuff website And the book is that you can just, open it up to any page, and each story only takes one page, and the photo is opposite. You can just start anywhere in it. The contest itself is in its second year. This week and next week, we will. You can go there and you can see the runners-up and the winner from last year's contest to see just examples of the kind of stories that we posted. And there's no entry fee, of course, and every entry that we get that meets our standards, and last year it was every one of them, will eventually be published over the course of the coming year.
And they're blind entries.
Yeah, we
Steve
don't-
and I
we
are
don't
the
judge.
judges. We have two other people to judge.
And we take the name off the
Yeah.
thing,
have
so there's
no-
nothing to identify the person for the judges.
So your last speaker, briefly, before she got into her actual reading, she talked about AI. She warned us against not giving in to the seductiveness of AI doing all our writing for us. What would you say is the thing that we bring to the table that AI will never be able to bring to the table?
Your stuff. Your stuff. No, I'm serious. That's the authenticity that's behind all these stories. AI can consolidate things and it can synthesize. I don't know everything it can do. I mean, it can give you something. It can give you a synopsis of a book or a synopsis of a movie. It can synthesize things, but it doesn't have that personal, emotional connection to, anything we might, people, objects. And so storied stuff AI can never touch storied stuff because AI doesn't have stuff. At least I don't think it does. It doesn't yet. So, I think we're safe from that. But it's true. It's everywhere. So watch out.
Okay, well, if that's it, thank you all for coming, and please consider
send us
submitting
pieces.
to storage stuff.